Okay. So it looks like we're having trouble with Facebook.
Hmm.
Oh my gosh. I don't know what the heck is going on tonight.
Yeah, Facebook likes to do that.
That's wild. Save changes. Let's see. Still doesn't work. What the heck? Go
Hmm.
live. Looks like your Facebook stream was deleted. Try to create a new screen. I already have a screen. This is so wild. Okay. I don't know what's going on tonight.
Strange for sure.
All right, let's see if that works. Well, it's not a typical podcast if you don't have troubles.
Yeah, that's true. Especially when you're doing paranormal.
Hello, anime. How does it sound on your end? You hearing everything okay? Oh, I hear that echo. All right. Takes her a second. It says there's two people on. You guys hear everything okay? Good. All right, cool. And Morgan called. Well, hello, Morgan. Appreciate you stopping in. So, you might as well just go ahead and tell us about yourself. There's a very slight echo, but it's not terrible. I kind of hear it.
Yeah, I don't really hear an echo on my end, but hey, maybe
Okay.
maybe for once things are working good on my side.
So, why don't you go ahead and tell us a little bit about yourself and how you got into this and all that kind of good stuff.
Sure. So, as far as the paranormal side of me goes, um, I've always known it existed. I've always had the ability to see it and uh, sometimes interact with it depending on the situation. But, as a child growing up, you're always told by your parents that it's not real. So, at some point in your life, you learn to ignore it. And then, of course, we have to unlearn that. But when I was 19, I was doing the haunted prison at Mansfield Reformatory. I was on the Mansfield Police Explorers. Um, they used to park cars out there for the haunted prison from September to November. And they had me on the exit one night, and I was looking around the building because there was nothing going on. I had my flashlight looking into the windows and stuff. And I looked up into one of the windows and I saw this woman looking out onto the yard and at the people who were there. And at first, I didn't really think much of it, but then it clicked with me. I was like, wait, why do I see through her? So I look back. Of course, you look back and it's always not there anymore. Um, so a little while goes by, and one of the people who worked at the actual prison came through. And I stopped him and I said, "What's up in that room up there?" And he said, "There's nothing, it's closed off." Um, I was like, "So no actors, no anything?" And he's like, "No, it's completely closed off. Nobody goes in there." Why? And so I told him what I'd seen, and he asked if I could get a break and come to the break room and look at some pictures. So I did. And I'm going through the pictures, and I come across the woman I saw, and I'm like, "That's her." Turns out it was Helen Gladkey, which is a very well known spirit there. The warden's wife, who she was shot when a pistol fell off of a hat box when she was getting ready for church. They took her to the hospital where she died of pneumonia. She never died in the prison. She didn't die of the gunshot, which is something that I hear a lot um, whenever I see the reformatory on TV. I hear a lot of people tell the wrong story, and I'm just like, that's not true history. So I always make sure I tell the true story while I'm talking about it. So then, they say when it comes to the paranormal, there's two type of people: the ones who see it and run like hell the other direction, and the ones who see it and run like hell towards it and want to know what's happening. Obviously, we ran into the fire instead of away from it because we're investigators. So
Yep.
I did a deep dive and started getting into paranormal as much as I could, to the point that I actually started volunteering at the reformatory. And then I found out the person I stopped was at the time the ghost hunt manager. So it's like, okay, for me, it's like that makes so much sense. That is the one person that I actually picked to stop. Um, so obviously, that really started me down this rabbit hole that I've gone into. So that was when I was 19. I'm 33 now, so I've been doing it for quite a while. There was a short stretch, excuse me, I say short, but it was 5 years, where I wanted nothing to do with it. I didn't want to hear the word paranormal, ghost, spook, boo, happy Halloween. I didn't want to hear none of it because of something that happened at the reformatory. Um, all I can say about that experience is, I won't tell the whole story, but I felt trapped. And I didn't like that feeling. And it scared me so bad, to the point that for 5 years, being in my 20s, I was afraid of the dark.
Mm.
I was afraid of everything that moved. Um, and it took me 5 years to face that. And I did that by going back to the reformatory for a ghost hunt, going back to the spot where it happened. And basically, I just went crazy. I did the one thing I preach to people not to do. I started cussing out spirits.
Mm.
But at the time, it was necessary. And without it, I wouldn't be doing what I'm doing now. So I'm okay with that. The only reason I can't tell the full story is because the full story is in my book, Journey into the Unknown, My Experiences with All Things Paranormal. Because I've seen everything. Ghosts. Um, I've seen Bigfoot. I've seen UFOs. Uh, I swear I saw fairies once, but I'm not 100% sure about that. But it was good enough to make me believe that I did. And, I, I believe as an investigator, we have to be skeptic believers. We have to believe that it's real, but skeptic that that's what happened at that moment. That's why we debunk. That's why we try to figure out an alternative explanation for what could have happened. Because if there's something natural that could have made that happen, then it may have been paranormal. It may have just been that. So we have to dismiss it. So it was that experience with the fairy. Like I said, it was enough to make me not be able to really dismiss it, but still question, did I see that? Because it was very interesting, but it is in my book as well. The one thing that's not in the book is my return to the paranormal, which I just told a basic version of. But on my YouTube channel, I did actually have it on recording on my camera because I was recording. Um, I was upset when I listened back to the recording because after I finished, I can't remember everything I said because that was quite a few years ago now.
Oh yeah.
But um, I distinctly remember saying, "Now, if you understand me, whistle." And just as plain as day, I heard a whistle. Um, Now, this all took place in the west attic. Now, I was in the very back, in the back room, through that other doorway that's in the back left corner. I don't know if it's open anymore, but it was then. And there were some people out in the attic. But this whistle came from deeper in the attic than where I was. And I had already made sure I was the only one back in that area. The crazy part to me is that I heard it. They heard it because as soon as it happened, they were like, "Oh my God, I heard it whistle." But the camera didn't pick it up. And I was like, dang it. Now that would have been amazing to catch. But that's how it goes.
Exactly how
Unfortunately,
it goes.
unfortunately, the most amazing thing that happens on the investigation sometimes does not get caught on camera.
Yeah.
And that is one of the hazards of being an investigator.
Yeah. So I'll tell you that we were at Ohio State. A couple things about Ohio State Reform or Mansfield for me is I had a follower for about 18 months,
Mm,
and he kind of harassed me for a while, for most of that
yeah.
time. And the thing was that I was to take him somewhere, but he couldn't tell me where I was to take him. I just had to figure it out.
Mm-mm.
And there's so many places that he could want to go, and
Yeah.
you're not going to help me. But the night that we went to Ohio State Reformatory, all this shit happened that was just off the wall. But
Oh,
when
yeah.
we left, we were walking out to the car, and it was like the weight of the world lifted off my shoulders. And I looked at Deborah, and I'm like, "It's gone." And
Mm-hmm.
she's like, "What's gone? The car? The car's gone? Somebody stole the car?" And I'm like, "No, nobody stole the car. The follower is gone. He stayed here.
Yeah,
I felt him leave." And so that was a big deal for me.
absolutely. And I can tell
The other,
you, the 5 years that my attachment, because I think it was an attachment, um, the 5 years that that was going on, I'd already mentioned that I was afraid of the dark and stuff, but I also got extremely angry. I mean, you could breathe too loudly while I was in the room, and I was cussing you up one side and down the other. I was downright mean. And then the day that I went in there, it's like I did all of that. And remember, I said I was afraid of the dark. Now, yes, I know that place inside and out because I walked those halls so many times, but you still, certain places, you're going to use a flashlight so you don't break your neck.
yeah, right?
But in the places where I knew I wouldn't break my neck, I walked through there, no problem, lights out. Um, and that is not the easiest place to go through, lights out completely.
Yeah,
Um, Despite all of the staircases and all of that stuff, that's one thing. It's extremely difficult to get yourself to walk through there with no lights on because of the haunting as well. Because it is it is wild. It is a crazy haunting. Um, I have a friend who just recently told me that she's never had anything happen there, and I was like, "There's a very good reason for that." This is just my opinion. There is not something I can prove. I don't know for a fact, but I can say I noticed a pattern working there for years with the ghosts and the humans and or the living and everything else. When you have a strong-willed woman in the room, they won't do anything. They go in basically into hiding.
hmm,
When you have a woman who is more dependent, not as strong willed as I would never call any woman weak because I don't believe anybody's actually weak. But they will do things to them. I've seen this firsthand where I walked through one time with people and we actually saw something look at her and run away.
Hmm.
And then around the same area, a few years later, I was walking with somebody else, another female. They looked at her and rushed us. And I know that the second person was actually afraid to even be there in the first place. She doesn't like paranormal stuff, which why would you go to the Ohio State Reformatory if you don't like the paranormal because you're going to have something happen?
Right.
Regardless of the love of the history, you're going to have the paranormal when you walk through those doors. So, if you don't like the paranormal, you might as well just go on ahead and stay home.
Yes.
Not that's
That's
not always that's not true. You go for the history and the building too because it is amazing. But it's easy to ignore the paranormal because half the time I believe it is my truest belief, and I've had this discussion with volunteers in the past. I believe everybody has an experience when they go into that place, paranormal experience, whether they realize it or not. But anyway, so this particular friend that said she's never had anything happen, I was like, that's because you even scare the living. The living won't cross you. What makes you think the dead's going to cross you? You're a witch and you're a shaman.
uh,
I'm not going to cross you. Like, so I'm like, that's probably why you haven't had anything happen
yeah.
because they don't want anything. I was like, ever since I stepped into my gifts over the last few years, I haven't really had anything happen there. They come after, they still, you still get all of the stuff, but I'm talking during the day here that we didn't have anything happen.
Mm.
At night, when there's an actual investigation, they don't like mess with me, but they will like make the equipment go off and do what I'm asking to have done most of the time. But it used to be I'd walk the halls during the day during tours, or if we weren't doing regular tours, just self-guided that day, and I'm walking around just checking on everybody. They would screw with me. The spirits would screw with me all the time. They have not done that over the last few years. Anytime I walked in that place during the day, but when I have gone there for investigations, I've gotten so much amazing activity that it seems almost unfair to other people. So, it really is just how you are. Um, they're not going to. How can I put this without somebody from the reformatory texting me and telling me off? Um, you know what? That's why I don't even try to word it. I just let it go at that. That way I don't cross a line.
So when we were there, we went for a public, and there just
Mm-hmm.
weren't very many people in the public. And they said, if you want to take the tour, come over here. If you guys just want to go investigate, just go over there and go. So
Right.
we took the side that we were just going to go. And so we went, explored a little bit, did some investigating, and eventually worked our way down to the bullpen to take a little break. And we met some, I always say kids, some young adults
Mm-hmm.
who had a lot of questions. So we talked to them
Absolutely.
for a while and answered their questions. And a couple of them were like, do you guys mind if we hang out with you? And I'm like, not at all. Come on, let's go.
Exactly.
So we took these two young ladies with us, and I would say they're early 20s, early to mid 20s. And so we went a few places, and the one girl wanted to try an Estes. And I'm like, absolutely, let's try it out.
100%.
We went up to the attic and we did an Estes there, and it took her a few minutes, but she caught right on, and it was a really good Estes. I'm like, this is
Excellent.
cool. We walked around, did some more stuff. We end up in the Jesus room.
Mm,
And so there's a row of chairs, and then there's a row of like theater seating that's not bolted down.
right.
So, and then it's split down the middle, so there's sections on each side, and there's a walkway in the middle. I'm sitting on one side in the front of the chairs. This other girl's on the other side in the chairs. And then Deborah and the other girl that was with us sat in the theater seating behind the other girl. So I'm the only one on my side of the aisle. And we start hearing noises and whatever. And we were just sitting there quietly. And I decided to get up, and I'm looking around. I got the camera. I'm looking around trying to see if I see anything. Nothing.
Right.
And about the time I turned to have my back toward everybody, we heard this sound. And I can, you know how the ceilings are crumbling and there's shit all over the floor. You could hear somebody running through the stuff on the floor.
Oh, yeah.
And then there was a loud crash. Well, this ran up behind them, hit them in the back of the stadium seating or the theater seating, and pushed them both
Wow.
to a standing position. Now, neither one of them are little girls. So this took some serious force
Oh,
to
yeah.
pick these two ladies up to a standing position. And of course, they both screamed, "What the fuck?"
Yes, oh, yeah.
And then all of a sudden, we're kind of like gathered in the middle there between all the seats and looking around, and we're all like back to back, and everybody's looking to see what we can see. And the one girl's like, "Look," and points to the back of the room toward the Jesus painting, and you see something back there, and it's kind of going like this. It's just a black shadow, just kind of bobbing around, and it's like, that's your warning.
Yeah.
So we left that area, gave everybody a break because those two ladies were just like,
They were shook up for sure.
yeah, they were pretty shook up, and they both would have ran, but they had no idea where we were and how to get anywhere else from there.
Right.
So it was, I mean, that was really freaking. It was pretty. So I say it was pretty cool.
Oh,
They
absolutely.
were they were really scared, right? I mean,
Well, yeah. I mean, honestly, if something like, let's be honest, neither one of us are little either. If something was strong enough to push either one of us up out of a chair, we'd probably say a few choice words ourselves.
absolutely,
You know,
absolutely.
I heard. I was sitting at one of them things, the talks that they do during their Parapsychon.
Mhm.
I won't call out the specific celebrity, but somebody asked this person, "Do you ever get scared during an investigation?" And they answered, "Well, no, that's what we're here for." I walked up to their booth. Now, if they see this, they might remember because we talked several times. And I looked at this person and I said, "Why did you lie?" And they're like, "What do you mean?" I was like, "Don't be sitting here telling people you don't get scared when something happens because you're there." Look, I was like, because first of all, I watched every episode of all of your shows. I've seen you freak out. I've listened to you scream when something happens and run out of a room. It's like no matter how seasoned of an investigator you are, how many investigations you've done, no matter how much you think you've seen, there are going to be things that are going to scare the absolute hell out of you, and you're going to, we're not going to necessarily run out of the room. It does happen every now and again, but it has to take something pretty serious to make that happen.
Mm-hmm.
But I am very famous for screaming the loudest F-bomb you could imagine when something really gets to me. And it doesn't help when you're in a place where every word already echoes. But when I'm in an investigation, it does take quite a bit to get me there because, having been doing this for so long and now, having done the shamanic apprenticeship and learning more about the spiritual side of things and connecting more with that, it takes a lot more to actually scare me. But nobody is, no investigator, no medium, no shaman, no anything is above having a moment where something is going to scare the hell out of them. That's just, it's not practical to believe that that would ever happen. But, you know, do we do it like they do on TV? Absolutely not. That's all. That's for entertainment, so they overreact. But we don't do that.
So
Sometimes we do that, but
to this point, I have not been scared, and
yeah.
that's what I'm waiting for. I'm waiting. I'm waiting to be scared. Okay.
Oh
Um,
yeah. And
I can tell you that about a month or a month and a half ago, we were at a location that I've been to many times,
mm,
and there was a spirit there that just didn't belong there. It had never been there when I was there before because I know the spirits and they know me. And we were there, and this spirit who called himself Michael came about this night and actually almost choked me out during the
mm,
investigation. Like I couldn't breathe. I couldn't form words. I was coughing.
mm-hmm.
I was slobbering all over myself. It was not fun.
No.
But it didn't scare me. It pissed me off.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
So before that even happened, it already started agitating me. And I've never been agitated in an investigation before. And I actually left the building. And then over the next 5 minutes, I watched every male that was in that building walk outside.
Hmm.
And I'm like, whoa, get the women out of the building. We can't leave all the women. So they all came out, and I went back in, and I was by myself, and I was ticked off. And I started at this thing, and I'm like, look, you don't belong here. You can't be here. This isn't your place. You don't run this. Blah blah blah. And I was giving it to him more so than I ever would.
Right.
And he did. He started choking me out,
Yeah.
and I was fighting it. And I should have just got up and left, but I'm too hard headed. And I was
Yeah.
pissed off at him. So I kept going, even though I couldn't form words. I was still like, you know, two buddies came in and they're like, "Are you all right?" And I just kept waving them off, like, "Don't, don't, just leave me alone." And I could feel myself getting myself together. We're also doing a Facebook Live at this exact time, so this is all on our Facebook Live. Um, I, a friend of mine who may or may not pop on here tonight. His name is Mars Bear. He's from Australia, and he does a lot of astral travel. And he's part human and part demon, and he's got a lot of friends in high places. And he says, "I'm going to send these two demons to come and help you." And I cannot tell you their names, but I could look them up. They're on the live, and they're like, he's going to take care of this guy. And I'm reading this as I'm trying to compose myself to maybe get my mind off of what's actually happening.
Right.
And he types in his comment, Lucifer's cage is open or empty. Lucifer's cage is empty. And then it followed with, they're going to put him in Lucifer's cage and they're going to torture him. But I decided I wanted to say that. And I'm like, hey, Lucifer's cage is empty. Well, my buddies were walking toward me. And as I said that, they were both like, whoa,
Mm-hmm.
well, what's going on? Is he possessed? And it was funny because I couldn't speak. And that's how they took this. And that's not what was happening.
Right.
But they're like, oh, and I'm like, no, I'm good, I'm good. So we kind of fought through that. Well, this 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 spirit calls me a bitch. I called it a bitch back, and then all of a sudden, you hear the next sound you hear is like somebody get punched in the stomach. You know, oh, right, and then you hear a door slam, and this spirit never speaks again the rest of the night.
Hmm.
So those demons that he sent to capture this thing, they did exactly what they said they were going to do. This guy's
Right.
done this on more than one occasion. He saved my butt on more than one occasion. I should have
Yeah.
been a lot more afraid at that moment than I was, but like I said, I was more ticked off than afraid.
And I can understand being ticked off at that time because it must have been 2 years or 3 years ago now. I was doing an investigation, and um, we weren't even investigating yet. We were just on the tour, and we went to this one spot, and I had something similar where I couldn't breathe. I ended up down on my knees, leaned up against the toolbox that I carry my equipment in, and I kept trying to move, and I couldn't move for anything. And my friend, who was a medium, who was doing the tour and waiting for the tour to be over because he was part of the gallery readings that night, he put his hand on my shoulder and he said, "Come on, let's go." And about time he said that, the pressure let off of me, and I got up and I moved on. And it took me a little bit, but I looked at him later. I was like, "I know what you did. I know that you stopped that attack." And you know how your friends will give you that specific look while the words are saying, "I don't know what you're talking about."
Mm-hmm.
He did that, and I'm like, "Yeah, okay, I'll let it drop because that's clearly what you want me to do. But I know what you did." But now, when I'm in an investigation, I'm the one that has to get people out of trouble.
Mm-hmm.
That's part of, because I'm a shaman, that is, I think, kind of expected of me from the people that I'm with. I oftentimes will step between people and something, or I'll be the first one in the room to look at everybody and say, "We all need to leave right now."
Mm-hmm.
I was doing an investigation not too long ago, and my friend's girlfriend was standing there. And I looked at her, and then I looked back at whatever I was seeing at the time. And I said her name, and I pointed to her. I was like, "You need to leave immediately. Go out to the main room. Get out of here." And so she left, and we all left. And a little bit later, I told them what had happened. But, um, you know, to the something I was going to say earlier, but we went a little left of center here. You were talking about the two young ladies who kind of migrated to you guys and ended up working
Mm-hmm.
with you guys that night. It seems that every time I do a public investigation, I always get the newbies. The newbies always find their way to me, and I'm like, you know what? That's fine. I'm glad to teach you what I know. I'm glad to teach you the methods that I found that have worked for me, and also explain that just because it works for me does not mean that it's going to work for you.
Right.
You mentioned Estes. I have done that several times. I absolutely love doing that. Um, excuse me. And somebody else in the room will start doing it, and they'll get absolutely nothing. I put the headphones on, and it's like it starts almost immediately. And at first it's just words, and then all of a sudden it starts making sense. And I'm like, and obviously when you're under in the S method, you find that out afterwards. Because that's always my first question when I come out. I'm like, did any of that make sense? Whatever happened, did it make sense?
Yep.
And sometimes they're like, yeah. And sometimes they're like, it didn't really make sense to the questions we were asking, but it was like you were having a conversation between two people.
Yep.
There's something else interesting that has started happening over the last year, which I told one of my other I have several friends who are mediums, but I told her about it, and she said it's the way I described it, the way it was because of the way it was described to me. She said it sounds like when you're in Estes, sometimes you end up channeling more than actually hearing something through the spirit box. Because more than once I have had people I'm investigating with looking at me crazy when I take the headphones off, and I'm like, what? They're like, you don't remember any of it? I'm like, no. They're like, bro, your voice was changing. It's like sometimes you were talking like a gruff, mean old man, sometimes a child, sometimes a woman, but your voice was changing. And I'm like, well, okay. And most of the time when that happens, I always end up pulling myself out, which I always say, I tell everybody, like, don't take me out of it unless you truly, truly feel like there's an emergency. If I don't come out now, it's going to be very, very bad.
Yep.
Because what's going to happen is I'm automatically going to pull them headphones off and come back to you guys when the time comes, because my ancestors and my guides are right there, and they are not going to let me go any further than I'm supposed to. There have been times where, like, I have started towards a black mass. I remember this very specifically. I don't know what it was. I could tell that it had never been alive, but it wanted to hurt the people I was with. Now, naturally, I'm not going to play that game. So I stepped in between them and I started walking toward it. I was going to challenge it. I was going to do what I had to do. But then, something very rare that happens, I actually heard my grandmother say, "Not yet."
Ooh.
And I stopped dead in my tracks and I backed up. They're like, "Bro, you were on fire. What was happening?" What happened? I'm like, "My grandma said not yet." I'm like, it's so rare that I hear, because I have more of the and I hope this is the right one. I have more of the claircognizant, which if I'm using the right clair here, that is knowing. I usually I hear this pop in my head, and then the next thought that comes to me is whatever's happening. But this time I actually heard her voice. And I'm like, if she used enough strength for me to hear her voice to stop me, that means I need to back up right now and not do this right now. And I told them, my friends, I said, she didn't tell me not to do it. She said, not yet. I said, that tells me that it's going to happen at some point. That I am going to have to go against this thing at some point. And I ran that idea past a few of my friends who are in the mystic world, and they all pretty well agree. And I'm like, well, I guess when the time comes, I'll know it. I mean, as a, and I've used shaman a lot because it's the word I love. I love using that particular word. But a lot of people prefer nature mystic or other things like that. I'm like, but I like shaman because it comes from my Cherokee ancestors. But that tells me that at the time I was not ready to go against whatever this was. But that the time will come that I will be. And I'm like, and I ran that past a few people, and they were like, yeah, that sounds about right. That's how I would have interpreted it. And I'm like, well, that's all I really needed to know. Because you guys have been doing this a lot longer than me, so if you would have interpreted it the same way, then I must be on the right track.
Let's see. So outside of uh, Mansfield, where are you from Ohio?
Oh, yeah, yeah.
And are you in that area right there?
Yeah, I'm still in the same area.
Okay. I grew up in Chippewa Lake, Lodi, Brunswick area.
Okay.
I grew
So I'm about 35 minutes from there.
okay. We lived in Worcester for a little while. My mom later in life lived in Ashland, so I mean,
Oh yeah.
right around the area. Yeah. Um, but so other than Ohio State Reformatory, what are some of your other favorite places to go?
Ooh, what is it? So actually next week, the 15th, I will be doing HillCon at Hillview Manor in
Oh, nice.
Pennsylvania. Um, I'll be vending there. I absolutely love investigating there. That's actually the place that I was talking about that experience happened where my friend had pulled me up and said, let's go. It happened there, and that is where I mostly have done public investigations here lately. I usually try to do at least one a year, and I usually try to do it while I'm already up there for an event. Because it's about 4.5 hours drive, so it's like if I'm up here, I might as well do the investigation too.
Yep.
Of
Yep.
course, then
So
it takes me 6 hours to get home because I have to keep stopping and taking a nap. But
so we live in Pittsburgh, so I'm only 45 minutes from Hillview.
okay,
And I know
yeah,
most of the people that work there. I know most of them. Um, hang out with a lot of them.
oh cool.
Um, so let's see. This weekend, Friday night, we're going to West Virginia Penitentiary.
I've been there,
Saturday, we're going to Poatstown Elementary School.
been there, love
This
it.
will be our second. This will be our second trip to Poatstown, and then the following weekend, Sunday. I think Sunday we go to Billy Creek,
I'd love to
and
go
Monday
there.
we go to ISS, and then Tuesday we come home.
Sounds like a good couple weeks for you.
So we're pretty well packed up. And then I'm sure there's something right after that, but I haven't looked that
Yeah.
far because these two big trips are going to be pretty wild.
Oh,
Um,
absolutely.
and so last year, uh, our team Verona Ghost, we did like 44 investigations over the year, and on top of that, we did paracons, and
Right.
we went to all the local breweries around here and did paranormal 101s and talked to people. And I mean, we were busy every weekend. Um, but we just found that maybe everybody in our team was not so excited about traveling to go to all these places we want to go to. So
Yeah.
this year we decided to cut everything back because, like I think last year there was 11 of us on our team. This year there's really like 4 or 5 of us, and there's really 3 of us that go most of the time. But we have done by the end of the year we have done 33 this year, and
Wow.
every one of them was a collaboration with other groups, 1 or 2 or 3 other groups,
Yeah.
and I only scheduled uh, one investigation for us. Everything else was scheduled by somebody else, and they invited us.
Wow.
So we've got to meet a lot of cool people. We got to
Awesome.
go to some cool places, and I mean it's been a really fun year,
Yeah.
um, and I think that this is kind of the future of the paranormal for our team is to just continue to collab and
Yeah.
go where people invite us. I mean, it's been a lot of fun.
Yeah. Sometimes that's the best way to do it. For me, I've been trying to get a group together for so long, but people are always interested until it's time to actually do it. And then they back out. So it's like, okay, I am the kind of person I do not go alone because of the safety hazard of that.
Yep. Yep.
So it's like, well, I guess I'm not going. Um, but I do, you know, based on the conversation you just had, that seems like a pretty good segue now to say that I have started helping run the ghost hunts at Rhodes Marketplace in Sandusky, Ohio. That is it's a, I guess it's kind of it's a thrift store, but it also has vendors. Like I have my stuff set up there as well as a bunch of other people. They have a rage room, paint room, puzzle room. The bargain room is the thrift store. But it has a lot of spirit activity happening there. The owner would text me randomly during the week, like, "Bro, you ain't gonna believe what just happened." Like, oh, actually, I will believe it because I've been there. Um, like, he'll be sitting in the store, nobody else is there, and one of the metal ball bats in the rage room would just fall off the hook that it's been sitting on for 3 days since the last person used it, and there's no reason that it should have fell. Or he'll send me like screenshots or screen recordings from the security cameras. Um, so we started doing ghost hunts, and they've been pretty good so far. Um, we do we do have it. Um, we're doing we're mostly doing private investigations now because they're not. We're only charging $10 more, and then you can have it to yourself and don't have to have random people come in. Um,
Cool.
but I talked him into doing two packages. One package is $30, arrive by 8:15, so that we can make sure that all waivers are signed, all payments are made, and then we start at 8:30. The other one is $50, and you can arrival time would be determined by how many people in the group actually want it. But with the $50 a person bundle, uh, whoever pays the $50 would get a 15-minute oracle card reading with me
Yeah.
prior to the investigation. So we started doing that, and those have kind of taken over the schedule. I'm like, well, we can't really do public hunts because you're scheduling private ones every other week or every week, and we got to have a break somewhere. So
Yeah.
the 1 week we have a break, I'm not going to schedule a public hunt that day because I don't want to drive an hour and a half and sit up there all day.
So when you say it's $30 or $50, is that per person?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. And how many people can you take there?
So because of the size, I set the limit at about, I believe I set the limit at 6 people because it is a decent sized store, but I feel, as somebody who's done several investigations, for me, it's like, I don't think it's big enough for us to have more than that in here without somebody accidentally contaminating somebody else's
Yeah.
evidence.
Yeah.
So I'm like, let's cut it at 6 people. Um, and so most of the time when we get people in, it's been, they have one or two people who come in, and then he always asks if we can investigate with them. And but this last time, there was a moment where I was like, I'm going to go sit down. I'm just going to let them investigate for now. And we can meet back up in a little while or something. But we usually investigate with everybody, but we don't, like, I kind of become a background character. And I told him, I'm like, listen, this is their investigation, not ours. So let them lead. If you have an idea, let's pitch it. If they don't want to do it, then we drop it.
I think that if somebody going there for the first time and not really knowing anything about it,
Mhm.
I think I would just rather go in and do our thing. And then if we came back another time, then have you guys jump in and help out. But I think that having somebody that's familiar with the spirits, I definitely think that can cause the spirits to act differently.
Yeah, and I do too because they want to act. They want to show. I always say they want to show up and show out for the people they know. Um, but like this last time, we separated from the other people, and I just let them do what they were doing, and they were having pretty much the same interactions that they were having when we were around. Um, and we were having something fun happen that I've never seen it happen before. I've never even thought to do it before. We can't replicate it. We can't ever do it again because the stuff that the room we were in no longer technically exists. But we had a guy, so because he's a thrift store, he has stuff that he brings in from estate sales and all this other stuff. So, all of that's going to bring something in as well.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
But he has some DJ equipment. He still has it. He just moved it to a different spot. Well, this last investigation, they were doing their thing, we were doing our thing, and we went to the area where the DJ equipment was, and I actually I turned on rave music as sort of a trigger object almost. And so we were doing the flashlight session. We had cat balls set up and everything, and we had everything else off except for my phone was playing the music. And what made me ask this, I would never understand. But I said, "Could you make the flashlight pulse to the beat of the music?" And it started pulsing to the exact beat of the music. There was not a single beat that was missed. And then
Crazy.
and then the um, and then the cat balls would go off, and when those go off in the dark, it looks like disco lights anyway. And so I'm just like, this is the wildest thing I've ever experienced. I'm like, I looked at him. I'm like, listen, I've been doing this for many, 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 many years. Nothing like this has ever happened, and this is crazy, and I'm here for it. I love it. I was so excited. Obviously that was one of the biggest thank yous I ever gave a spirit, which brings me to another point. When you're doing investigations, be polite and always say thank you when something does happen.
Yes.
That is one of my lessons when I give my ghost hunting 101. Like, do not be rude. Say please and thank you. The golden rule does not end when your body dies. I'm like, ask yourself, would you give somebody what they were asking for if they were asking for it in the way that you're asking? Yep. If you can answer no to that question, then you need to change your tune, because people going in and carrying on cussing and ranting and raving and provoking. I'm like,
nope.
If somebody came into your house doing that, you would not do a single thing for them. You would actually probably put hands on them and put them out the door. So what makes you think you can come in here just because they're dead and act like you don't have any sense? You got to be respectful, or you're not going to get what you want. If you want activity to happen, you cannot be disrespectful, and you always have to say thank you when something does happen. Whenever I walk into the store up there that do the investigations at, well, it's not going to much happen anymore, but I was taking bottles up there from the private club me and my parents belonged to. They were saving the liquor bottles, and I was taking them up there for the rage room and stuff. And when I went back to the area where we store them, which is where we have that's our hottest area during investigations, is back there. I walk in the room and I say hello to everybody. I greet the spirits. I let them know, if I've been told we have rage rooms, I'm like, we have a few rage rooms coming in today. We have an investigation tonight, just so you guys know what's going on today. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, I'll be back here later on, and I'm like, you guys just rest up for now. Don't mess with anybody during the daytime while we're open. When the investigation comes, you guys can do whatever you want. I'm not going to stop you.
So I started doing this when I did a couple of investigations, and my cameras would record the video, but then I wouldn't have audio.
Right.
And somebody said to me, "Well, did you ask permission to record?" And I'm like,
There it is.
"No." So now when I go into a place, and I always go in and I always introduce myself and I talk to them and say, we'd like to communicate with you tonight and go through
Yeah.
the whole thing. But never once did I ask if I could record.
Yeah.
And so there's been a couple of times I have no audio, and it just never dawned on me. So now when I go in, I do all that and I say, I would really like to record some of this tonight.
Hmm.
And if you don't want me to, you can shut the cameras off, whatever you want to
Right.
do. Um, and I've had zero issues after
That's
that.
that's cool. And honestly, I think that I've had that experience too, and I never really thought to ask permission to record. But the last private investigation we did, they were having issues with their camera right away, and it's like it was fully charged. There was no reason it shouldn't work. And now that you say that, I'm like, what if that's why it didn't work? Because
Yeah,
they were pointing, it was in the most active area of the building. You're like,
yeah.
you know, so it's actually something that I might actually add to the way I do things is to start
I
asking
highly
permission.
recommend it.
Because
And I tell you,
what
so
is it? Is it the Robert doll that you have to ask permission to take a
yes,
picture of? Yeah,
yes,
like it's like people need to understand. Like you've got to show them respect.
yeah.
Most of them are still humans. They're just in another form. You've got to show respect. You've got to say please and thank you. You got to ask permissions because, yes, you might own the property now or you might be renting it out, but it was theirs at some point.
It's still there. It's still their space.
It's
Whether
still their
you own it
space.
or you're renting it or what, it's still their space, and they believe that.
Right. And, growing up, the house I grew up in was haunted. And we knew the guy's name because our old neighbor used to take care of him when he had gotten sick. So she gave us his name and told us what he looked like and all that stuff. So one night I seen him, and I'm like, okay, I just seen him. It's not a big deal. And this was before I started being told it's not real. Um, One night I'm laying in bed and I'm trying to sleep and I can't get to sleep because I hear somebody walking around my room. And now I slept in the front of the house, so the street lights come straight in my windows and light up my room. I can see everything. There's nobody in my room. And so I had a chair beside my bed, and I looked, and I didn't even open my eyes. I just said, Frank, if you want to stay here, that's fine. This is your house too. But you need to sit down and let me sleep because I've got school in the morning. If you don't let me sleep and you keep this up, you are going to have to leave. This is when I was a kid now. I don't know that I would have handled it any differently now, but
Yeah.
about that time, I heard the chair squeak and I didn't hear another footstep the rest of the night, and I went to sleep. And, several times after I got my driver's license, I got my driver's license at 19, so it would have been roughly around the same time that I started out seeing things out at the reformatory. I would start seeing him stand in my bedroom window looking out at the street because my bedroom was his bedroom when he was alive. Go figure. Go figure. I get the haunted room. Um, but
Nobody else wanted it.
right, I always wondered why my parents gave up the master bedroom and moved, and that's why they wouldn't admit that things were real, but they knew. Um, but every now and again, I'd just see him up there. And by the time I got upstairs to do whatever I had to do, go to bed, watch a movie, whatever the case was, he wouldn't be there. And, you know, if you live or work in a haunted place, it is okay. And honestly, this goes for anything. Just the same way you have to do it with the living, you have to set boundaries.
Yep.
Um, you know, my room here at the hotel, I work and live here, and I know spirit is going to be drawn to me because of the shamanism, because of the growing mediumship and all of that. They're going to be drawn. I have a few rules. I'm like, if I'm sleeping, don't wake me up. Do not mess with my dog. If I'm at work, like if I'm actually at work, don't interrupt my day. You know, if I'm just, if I am sitting at work like I do most of the time and I'm just watching Netflix on my tablet or I'm writing or something like that and something happens, I'm not going to make a big deal out of that. I'm going to be like, well, okay. But, I don't want any actual interruptions while I'm working. When I lay down to go to sleep at night, that means we are closed for business. I do not want to deal with you. I'm not going to entertain you. You can sit down and wait till I wake up. But the one thing that has had me cleanse my room, had me sage it, Palo Santo, and everything, if I come home and my dog is afraid, that means something broke the rules. And, you know, just the same way you've got to enforce them with the living, you have to enforce them.
Absolutely.
You set them back. I keep trying. I tell everybody that I investigate with, if there is something you absolutely do not want to have happen to you, set that boundary. Some people, most of us, I would say, are okay being touched and hearing anything pretty much. And there's people who absolutely refuse to be touched. They will not, they do not like it, they will leave. Okay, set that boundary. You are not to touch me, period, point blank, end of discussion, goodbye, the end. Mean it with every fiber of your being, and that boundary will not be crossed. That's not always true, but 99% of the time it is true. They will listen to the boundaries you set.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
prefer, I really prefer that they just touch the equipment, touch the K2 meters, touch the cat balls, whatever. I'd rather them not touch me, but if I do get touched, what are you going to do? I'm here for the investigation. I'm here to know that they're here. So, like, yeah, do I still jump and twist? Absolutely.
Yeah. I typically tell them that they're allowed to touch me, but they're not allowed to touch anybody on my team.
Yeah,
That's just me putting myself out there for the team. But everybody does something different. I think that
absolutely.
that's, like I said, that's protecting my team.
Yeah, I agree. I do agree that that is protecting the team. My for me, it is. I'm okay with it. If I know somebody's not okay with it, I'll specifically say do not. But I'm like, it's really down to each person. Like, what do you prefer? If that is a hard line for you, we're going to make sure they understand. Don't cross that line. If you don't mind, like even when it comes to introducing ourselves, I make each person do it because I'm not giving them your name because I don't know if you want them to know it or not.
Right.
I will say my name quick, fast, and in a hurry because I don't care.
Yeah.
But for me, it's down to each individual person. How do you handle it? How do you want this to go? Are you okay with them knowing your name? Because if they know your name, you might hear it called at some point during the night by somebody that's not one of us. Are
Yeah.
you ready for that? Um, you know, if you don't want to hear your name, I don't say it. Or say my name is this, but please don't say it. You know,
I get my name set. They love to say Nacho. I don't. I guess it's not something they typically say, but they love to say Nacho. And then the other thing is, I usually get called names.
uh-huh.
You're a douchebag. Whatever it is. They're always calling
Yeah,
me names. Um, and I think it's just them, on the most part, being playful and
yeah,
not just being mean. But I think that they like to see if they can get a rise out of you.
yeah. There's one spirit at the store that does that. He'll stand in this one doorway, but he can't. He either can't or won't cross that doorway. And I'll be standing there, and he'll be calling me all kinds of cowards and wimps and bitches and all this stuff. And I'm like, but the second I step through that door, you're going to disappear like you always do. I'm like, if you really think all of that about me, I'm standing right here. Come out here. You know, but there's been a few times where I do hit back. I will hit back when they use certain words. And I'm like, listen, I'm the coward, but you're only willing to come up on me if my back is turned. As soon as I turn around and look at you, you disappear.
Yep.
What do you mean I'm the coward?
Right.
I'm the weak one, but you won't come face to face with me. That don't make sense. You'll come up to me when my back is turned, but you won't come face to face with me. I don't think I'm the one who's being a coward. And
What,
I will do that. But that goes into be very careful what you say because we don't want to provoke. We don't actually want to piss anything off.
yep.
But also, I wouldn't put up with a living person calling me those words. So why should I put up with it just because they're dead?
Yeah, there's definitely a line that they can't cross, and if if it's if the context of it is playful, that's one
Yeah,
thing. I told you the one that choked me out was calling me a bitch, and you could hear
yeah,
the tone. It was not playful, and that has a lot to do with the context of it. And sometimes you could just feel that it's playful or it's serious, and that's where you got
right,
to draw the line.
right. And that's the thing is there are places where I've heard things say that kind of stuff to me, and it was absolutely angry, and there was no playfulness to it at all. And I'm like, listen, when I said that these hands were rated E for everyone, that does not stop after death. I like I said, I'm a shaman. I do the cleansings. I know that is a heck of a way to put it. And there's other people who were in my program with me and my teacher who, if they saw this, they'd be like, "Boy, don't ever say it like that again." But it boils down to the same principle. I'm just saying it in a more fun way, more fun, modern way. But I will cleanse.
Uh-oh, he's gone. He'll be back in a moment, I think. Technical difficulties. All right, we'll see if he comes back. I'm sure he will. I'm sure he'll come back. Um, there he is.
Yeah, somehow I got cut off, and I was like, "What the?" And I'm sitting here like, what if spirit shut that off because I was going a little too far with what I was saying?
So I'll tell you that. Well, first I want to ask you the investigation at the Rhodes Market.
Yeah.
What you want them there at 8:30? What time do they stay till? What's the finish
Um,
time?
if I had my way, it would be 2 a.m. But the owner usually wants everybody out by 11. And to be honest, between 8:30 and 11 is the most activity. We've stayed later, and normally after 11, it's like they all just stop. Like his phone doesn't even give him notifications that anything is happening most of the time after 11. So I'm like, well, I mean, if they stop at 11, they stop at 11.
We
But
go to Brunswick. We go to see my mom and sister in Brunswick often,
yeah,
and so I mean, Sandusky is not far from there. And
no,
like me and Deborah and my sister would pop up there and do that at some point.
yeah,
For sure.
absolutely. Just you can schedule it with us. if you follow my Facebook, Emerald Ravens Hollow,
Mhm.
the contact information is there. It's the store owner's information, so I don't have it memorized. But so we do. You can schedule through him, and then we have. Oh, my brain. We have. Uh, Come on, Junior, get it together. It'll come back to me. Um,
Well, what I was going to tell you when I stopped to ask you about the hours, because you said maybe a spirit kicked you off. Behind me are all these dolls are haunted dolls,
well, see,
and
the one in the blue, I thought I saw move slightly earlier. I just
this
wasn't
one or
sure.
this one,
The one in the blue and white, yeah, her.
this one, yeah, she's blue and white too. She's dark blue, but
Oh,
she's light blue.
yeah, the
They
light
all
blue
have
one.
cat balls. Last night, um, my guest didn't show up. We had a issue there, but when I first started, her cat ball went off like nonstop for 10 or 15 minutes.
Wow,
And then I think hers went off, and hers went off, and he's brand new. His went off a couple times, hers went off a couple times, but hers was going off so much that I thought maybe there's something wrong with the cat ball. So I
right.
switched her cat ball with her cat ball, and neither one of them ever went off again. They were pissed
Huh.
off at me, which is
Yeah.
the second time I've swapped on them because the cat ball just kept going. I want to make sure, and
Oh,
I said
yeah.
I would never do that again. But so they sometimes they set them off, sometimes they don't.
Right.
Um, but they are known to. I'll be sitting here and my camera will disconnect, or my microphone will disconnect, and it's. I know it's them. I know that they do stuff like this. So
Yeah.
they could have easily just said like I'm done, booting him out.
Yeah. Yeah. Because the light blue one, I thought, I don't know if you saw me, but earlier there was one point where I looked directly at the camera. I was like, because I thought I saw her move, but I'm like, don't say it. You're gonna sound nuts. But
Well,
now I kind of wish I had said something.
if
But it
thing
seems
is
like
being
it
recorded, so
seems
we
to
can go back.
me, right? It seems to me I might have been going down a road that the spirits attached to them didn't exactly approve of. So that's fine. Let's switch gears. I won't say anything about what I was saying before. Um, but as far as hours, I did convince him, if things, even if it's 11 o'clock, if things are still happening, do not stop it. Let's keep going until it slows down or until it does stop. Sometimes people leave out of there 10:30, 10:45. Sometimes I've seen it almost midnight before we get out of there because things were going. So, if things are happening, we are going to stay. When things stop, there's no use in continuing to push because they're done.
So
And
one of the places that we go to, um, and it's not terribly far from you. It's the Great Crates Octagon House in Circleville, Ohio. Have you ever
I've
been
heard
there?
of, I've heard of it, but I haven't been there.
I I've been there. We've investigated 8 or 9 times over the last few years. It's absolutely my favorite place in the world. I highly recommend it. Um, when the spirits tell you they're done, you're done. You
Yeah,
pack up and you leave. I mean,
yeah,
that's
and I
and
think they
it
should
used
do
to
that.
happen a lot to us, but now when we go, they don't tell us we're done. They like me, and
Yeah.
I have a very good rapport with all of them. Oh, Deborah says we've been there 10 times to be exact.
Oh,
Um,
there you
I
go.
have a very good rapport with them. They know me well. We know them well, and we can stay as long as we want typically. But the
Yeah,
first few times we were there, they would just tell you goodbye, and everybody we just packed up and left because that's what this is about. You want to be respectful.
absolutely. And I think everybody needs to understand that. But some people will be like, no, I paid to be here until 2 o'clock. I'm going to stay here. But if things stop at 11:30, why are we sitting here for another few hours just because we paid? The spirits are done.
Yep.
They're not going to coax them into doing more. You know,
Well, just like these guys, I, they won't light a cat ball on demand for me. They'll light a cat ball when they feel like it,
right?
and I won't even ask them to light the cat balls. I tell them, feel free. You're more than
Absolutely,
welcome to at any time, but you are not required to, and I'm not even going to ask you to. If
absolutely.
you want to interject, interject. And actually,
Yeah.
I have a short on my YouTube page and on my Facebook of this one. I had a panel of 3 guests on, and we were talking about the multiverse and everything that goes with it. And a gentleman named Dr. J. Blackburn. If you go to Hillview, you probably know Dr. J. But he's a volunteer there and has been for a long time. He has a degree in metaphysical science. The guy is
Okay.
like a real deal paranormal investigator,
You're right.
doctor, whole 9 yards. But every time he would make a statement to be that was 100% true, she would hit her uh, cat ball.
That's
And this
cool.
happened probably 10 or 15 times in that hour and a half to 2 hour video.
Yeah,
It was amazing.
you gotta love when they do something like that because it's like, okay, so for me that is confirming what I'm saying because
Yes.
they're actually over there and they can see what we don't see. So
Yep.
if I'm saying something, if I say something like that, and they light it up, I mean, for me that's like, you can't make this up. This is really
Nope.
happening right now. That's like
Yep.
when I'm having a conversation with whoever I'm doing a reading for, and I'm sitting here shuffling the cards, I'm saying something, and the next card that comes out is exactly what I was just saying. I'm like, how
Yeah.
can you argue? You can't even argue with this at this point. I
Yep.
mean,
No,
because
there's your proof.
yeah, I first, you know, it you can't argue with that, you know, and it, skeptics will always find a way. But like I said earlier, I believe in being a skeptical believer. I believe something happened, but I don't know what it was until I
Yeah.
figured. That's when I first started. My thing was, um, no, you're not crazy. Something really did happen. Now let's go see if we can figure out if it has an explanation outside of the paranormal or if we have to look deeper into the paranormal side.
Yep.
You know,
Absolutely.
because too often when um, even seasoned investigators, we still get this all the time. And this is something that I've had to explain to the owner of the store because there's been a few people who have made comments about the investigations and stuff. And I'm like, you're going to have that. People who refuse to believe in this stuff, they are going to attack every way they can.
Absolutely.
But if you've got, okay, let's say you've got 50 comments and 2 of them says, well, there's nothing there, they're making all that up. And the rest of them say that they're going, or the rest of them say something to the effect of, it was a great investigation, I had a bunch of stuff happen, something like that. People are going to read and listen to the other 48 comments before they're going to worry about those 2 comments.
Mhm.
You know, and something else that's important to remember, we can be standing side by side and have 2 completely different experiences.
Yep.
I've been standing side by side with my friend who's a medium, and I seen no, sorry, he saw a little boy who was scared of something. I saw what that little boy was scared of, and I
Mhm.
wasn't too fond of it myself. But um,
Pretty wild.
that's funny.
Well,
Mine,
this is Mars. I told you earlier about Mars. So,
my readings are terrifyingly accurate usually. I actually watched one of my friends, her brother. I watched the moment that he stopped being a skeptic and turned into a believer. I watched that moment because I was doing readings for my friends, and her brother was like, "Oh, I don't believe in that shit. It's a bunch of bull." And I'm like, "Okay, how about this?" I was like, "I'll make a deal with you right now." I'm like, "Let me do a reading for you. If I'm wrong, if I don't get anything right, I will make a video telling everybody I'm a fraud, and I will put my cards down and I will stop practicing." And so he's like, "All right, I'll take that." So I start pulling cards, I start interpreting them, I start doing his reading. And there was one moment where he went from that cocky, I know this is BS face to the, how the hell could you possibly know that? And then when I was finished, somebody else asked, how did it go? And he's like, "I don't know about everybody else, but I can tell you that this boy is legit." And I'm like, "Listen, it's not my job to make a believer out of a skeptic, but when I can do it, man, does it feel good."
Yep.
It's always nice to see that moment when a skeptic becomes a believer. Now, he might not believe in everybody who does this type of work, paranormal, the mystical side of things, but he at least knows that I'm legit. And he believes that now he knows that it's possible for people to do. And I'm like, that is better for me than the fact that I actually got it right, was the fact that I was able to make you understand that this is not bull. This actually exists.
Yeah.
This actually can happen. That was more rewarding than actually getting the reading right, because I knew that I was going to get it right. For lack of a better way of saying it, I knew that I was going to get it right. That wasn't, that wasn't even a question for me. It was the moment I watched his face change from "this is crap" to "holy crap, this is real." That was amazing, and I'm like, awesome, I love it. I have. I've been to Madison Seminary. I did an investigation there with Kalani Ghost Hunter. That was actually my very first Estes method was there. And I just kind of fell in love with it from there, and now I try to do it everywhere I go. I don't really do it too much on public investigations because, like I said, I'm more in teacher mode than anything. But if I'm doing a private investigation somewhere, I guarantee you at some point I'm going in. Because
We love
it's,
Madison Seminary. We've been there 3 or 4 times. One of our team members passed away last year,
um,
and he was our teammate, and he also belonged to Hallowview. And so we kind of shared the guy, and awesome guy. Well, when he passed away, we wanted to do a benefit for his family,
yeah,
and Matt from Hallowview reached out to Adam Kimmel, and Adam gave us Madison Seminary for free
that's
to
awesome.
raise money for this guy's family. I mean, I can't tell you that there is another location owner that would do something like that. That
If,
was
yeah, if they are, I
truly
haven't.
amazing.
If there is, I haven't met them yet
Yeah, and so and
because that's
it's
that's
just it's
amazing.
amazing. Yeah, it really is.
Which
So we have
if I already love that place, but now I don't just love it; I have the utmost respect for it.
yeah. Adam Kimmel is a very, and I know sometimes he rubs people the wrong way or whatever,
Oh,
but
who doesn't?
he's got the utmost respect from me forever. I
Absolutely,
mean, the guy
absolutely.
number one takes care of his locations. He fixes the
Oh
buildings.
yeah, oh
He
yeah,
treats the spirits right, and he
absolutely.
takes care of people when they're in need. And that was a big deal. He did not have to do that.
No, he
We
didn't.
raised about $1,200 for the family that night.
That's awesome.
And
Yeah,
he's like,
most
whatever money you guys raise, it all goes to the family. I don't want a thing. And that
yeah,
was freaking huge.
most locations would be like, well, we can give you a discount, or
Hmm.
you know, we want a percentage of whatever you raise.
Yep.
But for him to just say, take the building, do what you got to do, keep whatever you raise for the family, that is absolutely amazing, and I'm here for it. I love that. And on the note of rubbing people the wrong way, who doesn't? Everybody's going
Yeah.
to rub somebody. No,
Yeah.
there's always going to be somebody that doesn't like
Somebody's
you
mad
for
about
one
something.
reason or another.
Yep.
So those people aren't worth the energy it takes to even wonder why.
Yep. All right. I have some questions that I ask everybody that comes on,
All right.
and they're really, really tough questions.
Oh
Um,
Lord.
not, yeah, I mean, these are groundbreaking questions, and if they're too much, just tell me. You wave the white flag. The first one is, give me your bucket list. If you could investigate
Ooh.
anywhere in the world, no price is not an issue, travel's not an issue. You could go for whatever and do it. Where would you go? Give me two or three or four places.
My number one place, and it was the first thing that came to my mind. I watched it on television before. I cannot remember what that show was, but they would put people, they'd blindfold them and put them in different rooms, and they would have to investigate until they found their way to the courtyard. Um, but Dracula's Castle.
Okay.
That is my number one place now. Where it's now staying inside our country. I would love to get to Trans Allegheny. Um, Man, I was supposed to get there. I scheduled and paid for it, but ended up being a scam. Somebody was running a scam.
Oh,
But I'd love to do Waverly. Um, there's some places over in the UK, but they're escaping my mind right now. I
so
know
if
what
I was
I know what they
if I was
are. I just
if I was to pick a place in the UK, it would be the ancient Ram Inn.
you know what I was the word ram kept coming to
Yeah.
my head, but I was ignoring that because I'm like, that's not right. That's not right.
Yeah.
But then you said it, and I'm like, it was right. You
Yeah.
should have
That's
just said
that's
it.
that's one of the most haunted places in the world,
Yeah.
and I
And,
definitely want to go there.
and I'd love to investigate the Hellfire Club over there too.
Hmm.
That
Yeah.
would be that would be interesting. I think because there's a lot of stuff around that. But more than anything, the places we just talked about, they're all ghost hunts.
Yeah.
I would love to get into some of these forests and wood patches in Appalachia where you're having sightings of, crazy sightings of Bigfoot and all these other creatures, and search for them too, because I did see a Bigfoot twice.
Mm.
So for me, Bigfoot's no longer just a myth or a legend. It is real because I've seen it. But I would absolutely love to really add more of the cryptid creatures to what I'm doing. Um, there's some forests throughout this country, and they're on every continent where there's some crazy
Oh yeah.
stuff reported in those forests, and I'd love to just any patch of woods, all the mountains and everything you ever get these wild reports out of. I want to go to all of them.
So let me ask you this: you're out investigating. You're looking for Bigfoot, right?
Hmm.
Or what Mothman or what wherever you're at, you're looking for this creature, right?
Right.
What's your game plan if you come around a rock and there you're nose to nose with Bigfoot? What's your plan?
Well, the first thing I'm probably going to do is shit on myself, but to be honest, you know, that's not an easy question to answer because
No.
we can sit here and speculate what we're going to do, but the truth is, I have no clue what would happen if I actually was standing face to face with it in the woods. The last two times I seen it, I was behind. The first time I seen it, I was behind a fence. I easily could have gotten over it, but I'm like, it's a wild animal. So if I don't run, if I just walk briskly and just act like I didn't see anything, I should be fine. So I got inside as quick as I could because this was in the time frame that I wanted nothing to do with any of that. So, fast forward a few years, the next time I seen it out the window of my car, so I can easily pump the gas on that sucker and get out of there. Now, face to face in the woods, nothing but my feet. I don't know.
You're not going to outrun it.
I'm not going to outrun it.
If he muscles up on it, you're not going to be stronger than him.
My
only plan is to fall down and play dead because the other choice is he's probably going to take you out anyway.
I would never go into the woods at night or the mountains at night, anytime really, without a firearm of some sorts. The way I see it is if I can at least have a round big enough to stop a grizzly bear, that should be enough to stun him long enough for me to disappear. But the question is, when I saw him, would I remember how to shoot?
Right.
How much of my brain would actually still be functioning the moment I'm looking him face to face?
Yep.
Because, you can't outrun him, but what if your instincts say book and you just start running? It's like you're halfway through and maybe you get away and then you're sitting in your car and you're like, you idiot, why did you run? He could have got you. But see, I'm not like one of those. I always cuss out whenever, on the rare occasion I actually watch a horror movie, especially those slasher ones, I'm like, why the hell do you keep turning around? Run forward. Do not look back. That's taking too much energy. You're going to trip on something. You're going to break your neck before the killer can get you. Run. I'm not looking back. I know that for a fact. I don't care how close he is to me because if I'm running, he's either going to catch me or he's not. So why do I need to know how close he is?
Yeah.
So, but I won't go out without a firearm in the first place because there's any number of dangers in those woods, not even just the creatures. And I have no intention on becoming something's meal. So, I have to defend myself in some way or another. So I would have a firearm. The question is, will I have the brain capacity to defend myself in the moment? Will I pass out? Like I said, I'm definitely going to shit my pants either way it goes. Let's just face it. I think anybody who says that they absolutely know that they wouldn't, you're lying. You believe you wouldn't, the chances are you probably would because that's going to probably be the scariest thing you're ever going to see.
Exactly. And so I have enough friends that do this, and I ask them that question, and nobody ever has an answer. And I'm like, if you're actively hunting any type of cryptid, you have to have a plan. You can't just go out there and wing it. I mean, I'm
Absolutely.
sorry. If you're going bear hunting, you've got a plan, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I would hope. My plan would be get out there, get the evidence, get a picture of it, get away from it safely. But for something like this, I feel like it's one of those situations. You make a plan, you get out there. It's time to put the plan into true action. All hell breaks loose. You forgot the plan.
Yeah. Because at that point there is no more plan. It's get the hell out. It's survival, right?
Right. Yeah. But I would hope that I would be composed enough to try to get a picture of it and figure out how to get away safely without getting my head tore off. Mm-hmm. But The reality is, I don't know what would actually happen. It would be my plan to get away safe with a picture or some other form of evidence. But the
Eh,
reality is, when faced with the situation itself, we can't really say exactly. Just like for ghost hunting, we say that if this happened, I'll be fine. I have said several times, going into places where they're supposed to be kids. Now, I love children. I love being an uncle, but kids laughing in the dark is some of the creepiest damn noises in this world. So
because
I'm
it's
like,
usually not kids.
right. So I'm like, so I tell people who are scared of it, and definitely scared. They're like, if I hear a kid laughing, I'm going to run like hell. I'm like, I'm not. I'm going to freaking try to find out what's laughing. And then I heard children laughing, and I said, "Nope, I'm leaving. I'm gonna go take me a I'm gonna go take a timeout. Let me get something to drink and calm down because what was even that?" So, you like to think you know what you're gonna do until the situation actually happens, and it's like, yeah, nope, I definitely did not do what I thought I was going to do.
Yep. Okay, so question one wasn't too bad. Question two is the really hard one.
Okay.
And there is no wrong answer to this because it's all opinion based.
Okay.
Cemeteries. Do you believe they're haunted?
Nope.
And why or why not?
I don't, because I don't foresee a world where spirit would want to hang around their rotting meat suit when they have loved ones and places that they could go. I truly believe that the only spirits in the cemetery are the ones that come there with you, which is why, despite the fact that people get mad at me when I say this, I will not go visit a loved one's grave simply because I don't believe that they're there. As far as residual energies, that is something that can happen, because I've been, everywhere has a Mary Jane's grave or some form of. And me and my cousins went to ours, and now I was combing the woods with the light, and I seen a cabin, and it didn't feel right, so I went back, and the cabin wasn't there anymore.
Mhm.
So that would lend itself to paranormal activity, but not necessarily a haunting. Um, so for me, I can't say that I believe that cemeteries are haunted. Um, I, I, mm, I
I
could
told
be
you this was hard.
I could be swayed if we're talking about the cemeteries in New Orleans, because there's too much evidence of, like, say, Maria Laveau
Mhm.
and her tomb for me to not believe that there is something else going on. But for the most part, absolutely not. Like your local cemetery, I believe the only spirits there are the ones you bring with you. Um, because I know that I wouldn't want to hang around my rotting meat suit. I'd want to be, where the places where I was happy when I was actually alive, when I had my body and I could go places. I'd want to go to those places. Um, I don't believe that any spirit is truly stuck in one spot unless something or someone did it on purpose. Um, I think I've never been there, but I feel like, when I die, unless I go there while I'm alive, I don't know. I'm only 33. I got time. But, maybe after I die one day, my spirit might go to one of these other countries, to the places that I want to go, because I no longer need a passport and I don't have to get on an airplane.
Right.
But
So I'll tell you what I believe. And first, I'll start with I used to feel exactly like you do. Why would they hang out in a place that there's no reason for them to be there. But I've thought about this, Ryan. Again, no scientific backing on my part. It's just what goes
Right.
on in my little being here. But when somebody goes to a cemetery to see their loved one, what do? They talk to them,
Hmm.
right? Now, in our daily lives, as we're out and about, do we ever stop and talk to spirits? Most of us don't. If you're standing in a cemetery and you're talking to your loved one that you believe is a spirit because they passed on, there are spirits everywhere, right?
Hmm. Sure.
Which is why you this is why you don't investigate in your home, because you could bring in something that's unwanted, right? So
Sure.
if people go to the cemetery every day and talk to spirits, their loved ones, other spirits are going to hear them that are in the area. And guess what? Those spirits are going to come to that area. And they know people are going to come around. Now they want to communicate, right? So now we have made the cemeteries haunted. So in
I can
theory,
see that.
I could go outside and
Excuse
stand
me.
in the middle of my street every day. If I go out there every day and I stand in the middle of the street and I talk to spirits, anybody, come and communicate with me, over time, more and more spirits are going to come there. And nobody's going to want to go up and down my street, right? Because my street's now haunted.
Yeah.
And that's why I believe that cemeteries can be haunted. And here's another thing to look at like this. In the last 5 years, maybe it's a little bit longer than that, the paranormal has just multiplied so many times over and over. More people are doing it now than ever.
Yeah.
A lot of these places that we go to now that people went to before for paranormal, there's even more spirits there. There's more activity there than ever. The activity's not dwindling, it's
Yeah.
gathering. So as
Yeah.
you move from place to place, you're bringing spirits with you, but you're also calling in more spirits because more people are talking to spirits, and there's more spirits out there that haven't had that communication that are really hungry for some type of communication.
That's fair. I see what you're saying. When we're giving it more energy, of course, that's giving it more opportunity. Um, if somebody's sitting there talking to somebody else can be like, okay, they're talking to them. I don't know if they can hear the response, but if I can come over there, they might talk to me. Um,
Yep.
so, I can see how that energy could draw things in. Um, but and I see the analogy you made with your street and everything, and yeah, you're right, which is kind of sort of like it's almost like the tulpa effect, where you're creating that energy, but you're not necessarily creating the spirit, you're bringing other spirits like a magnet.
Yep.
So I can see how you could come to that conclusion. That's just one thing. It's going to take a little more convincing for me to
Yeah, I mean,
be able to.
absolutely.
But see, that's the thing about being a skeptic believer is you have those skeptic things which are open minded enough that you're not. I'm not so close minded that I would sit here and say, nah, I'm right, 100%. There's no way. I'm
Mhm.
open minded enough to be like, I can see how you drew that conclusion, and that might be right. I could be completely off track and completely wrong. But right now, this is just, you know, oh my
Yeah,
God.
Marge, but not everybody can do that.
Right, right. Not everybody can do that. It would be cool. It would be nice to be able to, but oh my goodness.
So those are the two tough questions. And then I've got one more thing I want to tell you about that is something that I started doing 2 years ago. And I don't know if it makes sense. Some people have like, yeah, I can see that. Other people are like, I'm not too sure about it. But before we go to a place that we've never been before, I don't go look it up. I don't try to study it. I want to learn as I go,
Hmm.
right? So at the end of the day, I could say to whoever, "Hey, this is who I met here," and they can verify with me who we
Hmm.
met, right?
Absolutely.
But we were going to this place here in PA, not far from us, called the Doss House.
I've
And
heard.
again, if you haven't been to the Doss House, go to the Doss House. It's got some dark stuff in there. I'm not saying it's a demon. I'm telling you, there's dark stuff in there. But before we went to this investigation, and I don't know what caused me to do this, and I've done it many, many times since then. The It's actually the day we were going. Now I do it either the day we're going or the night before. I go get my spirit box out and my headphones, and I sit down in my chair, and I just turn the spirit box on and I listen and I meditate on where I'm going. And chances are, I only know the name and I might know some random fact about it, or I might know nothing. And I just meditate on the place and I think about it and I take down the words that I hear through the spirit box for the next 15 minutes. Sometimes I go 20 minutes. Um, and more often than not, I get responses that I've written down that are very, very relevant when I get there, right? We'll go through the night and things will happen. And I'll give you an example. When we went to the Doss house that day, I kept having this name come over and over and over. And the name was Molly, Molly. And it'd say Molly, and I'd put Molly down, and then it'd get some more words, and then it'd give me the name again, Molly. And I'm
Hmm.
like, okay, Molly. And then I started getting no. And then I get Molly again, and I'm like, Molly. Well, that's not my name. And I'd get Molly, and it kept going. And it kept just telling me, no, that's not my name. And at the very end, it said Molly. I took it down, and then it said, really hot, heavy, hard, Molly. And I'm like, okay. And so I just take it down. And then it was done, right? So I'm like, okay, we're done. So I shut it off. We went there that night. The ladies that actually own it were not there. One of their sisters was there to give us a quick tour, blah, blah, blah. And so I said to her, I have this list of words, and the name Molly come up a bunch of times. Anybody with the name Molly here? No, there's no Molly here. Okay. So we're walking around doing the tour, and we go into the kitchen, and there's a bulletin board. And there's a picture of a lady's face, and it says Holly, Holly, Holly.
Oh.
And Holly is the mother of one of the ladies that owned it, and Holly passed away. She was in the paranormal, which is why the daughter got into the paranormal, which is why the daughter bought this house. And I said, whoa, Holly, not Molly. And every
Right.
time it said Molly and I heard Molly, it would say, no, that's not my name. And at the end, it said hot, heavy, hard, HHH. I kept hearing Molly, and it was telling me, you idiot, my name is Holly.
Hmm.
And so that to me was just like, what the hell? Because,
Yeah.
like I said, I didn't know these people, I didn't know anything about their house, but this came up. And there was other things in there that hit right on, and I couldn't tell you what they are, but I still have the list of words on my phone. But there was enough on there to say, oh, this is plausible. Let's and so I've done it over and over and over again. And typically a quarter to half of the words I get mean something.
Yeah.
And I don't usually, like I say, I don't find out until after the investigation. I don't know why I started doing this. I don't know what caused me to do it, but it's just something that I started doing, and it never fails that something cool comes out of it.
Yeah. I mean, I get that. I don't. really like to know anything about a place either before I go in, even though I love history. Like, I want to learn it, but I want to learn it after the fact.
Yeah.
Because I feel like I don't want history, I don't want names of spirits or anything, experiences that have already been had to possibly influence what I experience, what I hear, what I see. So, I know some mediums will have people from the house they're going to investigate come to them the day before, the night before, or even on the car ride there. So essentially, that's basically the same thing what you're doing. You're focusing on the place, you're inviting spirit from that location to come to you and maybe give you hints or give you something to work with when you get there. And you get there, you find out, hey, this actually tracks.
Yep.
And that's when things are really cool. um, that whole thing with Molly and then Holly, I'm like, now see, I can see how you kept hearing an M instead of an H,
Yeah.
because I doing the Estes method, I know that it's very, very easy to mistake one letter for another.
Yes.
And they're so
And
close. And the way that the rest of the word goes, it's so easy to mistake one for the other that it's just like, it makes sense. It makes perfect sense.
yeah. And it could have just been that I wasn't focused enough on what the words were.
Yeah, true.
And I try now. I try to be very careful when I hear a word to really listen.
Yeah.
Um, but when it comes through a spirit box, it's not always crystal clear.
No.
And so, I accept full responsibility for misinterpreting it. I'm not blaming the spirits. I'm not blaming the equipment.
Yeah.
I clearly misunderstood, but
Yeah.
it's easy to do. It really is. It's
Well,
easy to misunderstand something, especially coming through a spirit box or something like that.
well, now you
But
understand. Now you understand why she was getting pissed off. It's like,
yes,
I'm clearly
she's just
saying
like,
my name. Why
yeah,
can't you understand it?
you're an idiot and you're not
Yeah.
listening. And
Yeah.
I look, I can't be mad at that because
Absolutely not.
she did everything she could to
Absolutely.
hot, heavy, hard, and I still didn't get it. And then when I get there and I see this name, Holly, and I'm like, oh my God, it's Holly, not Molly. And now I tell you what, we're really, really good friends with the ladies that own that place. And they're awesome people. So I highly recommend the Doss House.
Yeah, I'd love
And
to get
while
up
I'm
there.
talking about when I'm talking about places that I also love, you've been to West Virginia Penitentiary, right?
Absolutely.
So just up the street from there, uh, I believe it's like 6 miles, is a place called the Ross House.
I've heard of that too.
And it is one of the nicest places you'll ever stay as a paranormal investigator. The house is clean, it is updated, it's beautiful, and it's haunted.
Yeah.
um, the lady that owns it, her name is Cindy. We've become very good friends with her as well. Actually, Cindy gave me this doll right here, Patty.
Mm.
But Cindy is awesome. Highly recommend the Ross House if you get the chance to go there as well because it's definitely worth it.
Yeah, I'm gonna
Definitely.
have to put together my list, and if I can't, I prefer to do private investigations because there's not so many
Yeah.
newbies running around thinking you do it like they do it on TV. So I love to do private investigations because you've only got your little handful of people that you're with. We all know how we operate. We do this. But I was just talking to my friend the other day. I'm like, I need to start letting myself do public investigations again, because how else am I going to network? How else am I going to, meet people? I guess I'm coming on podcasts right now, which has been an amazing journey, talking to all of you guys who have podcasts. It's been absolutely amazing and I love it. And people, you know, I'm telling my stories. People are getting to know who I am. But it's when you get to meet somebody in real life that you really, truly meet somebody.
Yep.
So it's like I need to start letting myself do public investigations again, so I can meet more people. And maybe this is their first investigation, but they're so interested in it that they're willing to do their traveling. They're willing to go to all these places at the drop of a hat. You just have to tell them.
Yep.
And you know
Yep.
that's really what I need, because a lot of these places, while well worth it, they're not necessarily cheap.
Right? They're
You know,
not cheap.
it's not it's not a cheap hobby to have ghost hunting.
Not at all.
The equipment, the travel time, the getting the space, it's very expensive to do, which is why you have to have a team to help,
Yep.
help take that pressure. So, if you can build even the smallest team, most places get a lot more affordable. And if you do travel, like lately, actually, really never. I've never traveled far enough that I have to stay there. I travel far enough that I can still drive home.
Oh no, we go everywhere.
But but if a lot of these places that I'm wanting to get to, it's not realistic to think I'm going to drive. There's some places that are about an 8-9 hour drive from here. You're not going to drive 8 or 9 hours, do an all night investigation, drive 8 or 9 hours back. You've got to be willing to stay, even if you only get a room and you only stay for a couple, 2-3 hours and sleep and then drive home. That's fine, but you got to be willing to do that. The hotel I work for, if I do have to travel, I get 30% off all of our hotels throughout the country. Granted, we are the nicest one in the country, from what other people have told me, from what guests have said. And when I say the name of the motel, you'll understand. It's a Motel 6.
Get the light on for you.
They're not, the brand itself is not synonymous with being very nice. But all of our rooms, they were redone. They're really clean. They're absolutely amazing here. But I know that in some places they are exactly what you think about when you think about Motel 6. But at the same time, if I'm only taking a 4-hour nap, why should that matter to me? Why should I care? Like, I'm not staying there all weekend. I'm just going in there and grabbing a nap, getting out. Because it might change if I start doing events that take a couple days, or, doing investigations where I'm staying there for 2 days. I'm investigating 2 nights. But for the most part, I've never had that. And, outside of getting a show on Travel Channel, I don't think that's going to be necessary. So, because I don't really do video recordings to put on YouTube or anything. My YouTube is basically, I set it up like the podcasts I listen to on, Apple Podcasts or whatever. Like, it's just got my picture, my logo across it, and for the time, I'm just reading about cryptid creatures or famous cases, giving the facts, giving the information, and then giving my opinion on it. End of episode. I'm not doing something like this. I'm not recording videos and editing things to reduce an 8-hour investigation into a 35 to 45-minute episode. I wouldn't know how to do that anyway. So,
yeah, I'm not good at that kind of stuff.
It's like, whatever I'm going to do, it has to be, I can do it in a straight line. I record, I have my opening, I have my closing. I splice those videos on. I use CapCut, splice those videos into my recording, put the overlay over the time where I'm talking, download it to my phone, throw it on YouTube. You know, it sounds simple, but you still got to do all the research and stuff,
It's
write the
still a lot of work.
scripts. But it's a
Yep.
lot of work still. But you know, it's just the editing that only takes a few minutes.
So we're coming up on two. Actually, we're right
We're
at
at
2 hours
2 hours.
now, which is really good. But before we go,
Absolutely.
you're an author. You've
Yes.
written four books. Is it
Technically I have 6 books published, but only 4 that I push.
okay?
The first one is the one I talked about earlier, Journey into the Unknown, My Experiences of All Things Paranormal. One of them is a book of poetry called Mystic Tales of Love and Loss. And the other 2 that I push are the first 2 books in my fantasy series, the Emeraldson Saga. I also did a quick publication, a short guide for people to know how to do the formatting and get through KDP, which is Amazon's self-publishing thing, because I went absolutely insane trying to figure all that crap out. So I made a guide for it so other people didn't have to lose their freaking minds like I did. Like, I went so crazy trying to do it that I almost just quit. I was like, I'm not even want to do this anymore. So to save other people that trouble. And then the other one, and a lot of people keep telling me, well, you need to get copies of that to sell to people. I put together, I call it a no-nonsense recipe book because there's no fluff and no filler like all these typical ones. From start to finish, it's just recipes. But it's all cheesecake.
Oh,
And I have one right now that I need to order a proof copy for, but it is all desserts because I'm very much a dessert person. So I'm working. I gotta look at the proof copy for that one. I've got everything put together. I just gotta get the proof copy so I can make sure it prints out properly. But that one should be published hopefully sooner rather than later. But if you look me up, Richie Grubs on Amazon, they're available there. Emerald Ravens Hollow on Facebook. I have started this thing where you can order from me. I will order from Amazon, or if I have copies on hand, I can mail out the signed copy. The Rhodes Marketplace that we were talking about earlier, they do have limited copies of each book for sale there, as well as my spice rubs that I create, the first 3 of my spice rub blend, and I'm hoping to add a 4th one this week, and then I'll have candy coated for copyright purposes, candy coated sandwich cookies. But I think we all know what sandwich cookie I'm using.
yes.
So right now, I don't have any made and on the shelf right now, but I did have some a couple weeks ago. But I'll be making some very soon. I intend on at Hillview next week. I should have my plain white fudge on a chocolate sandwich cookie, and then there will be a strawberry chocolate cookie, and then on the vanilla sandwich cookies, there's one's going to have a cotton candy coating, and the other one's going to have an orange cream coating.
Nice.
And those are going to be on the vanilla cookies. I have done the white fudge, the cotton candy, and the strawberry, and everybody who's had them has been blowing up my phone like, when are you making more? When are you making more? When are you making more? Okay, I'm like, guys, do you understand how much chocolate I have to buy to coat these cookies? I made 3 dozen and I used 3 pounds of chocolate.
Oh
That's a
yeah.
lot of chocolate I'm going to add. So y'all got to be patient. And plus, I'm getting cookie molds so that I can put some chocolate in the bottom, press the cookie in a little bit, pour more chocolate on top, so that they come out perfect and uniform instead of looking like an over hyper 5-year old threw them in a bowl and covered them in chocolate. So those
Awesome.
will be out. Everything should be available on the 15th at Hillview, and then after that, either through me at Emerald Ravens Hollow or through Rhodes Marketplace in Sandusky, Ohio. Um, I will be doing shipping on the books. I don't know how shipping on the food would actually work. That would be risky.
Yeah, it
So
definitely.
that's something I probably would not be willing to ship. But the books, absolutely, 100%.
So we are going to try to come out to Hillview uh, for the HillCon. Like I
Mm-hmm.
said, we don't leave till Sunday to go to Billy Creek. Um, so we're going to try to come out there. So
Yeah,
if we get the chance, we'll stop in and say hey, check you out,
absolutely.
and yeah.
Also, before we sign off, because I know that we are completely out of time, we're way over at this point. Um, I talked about my YouTube that is Into the Unknown with Emerald Raven on YouTube. The good news is now that I finally figured out how I need to present these episodes for the paranormal side, for the ghosts rather than the cryptids. My next episode, I'm hoping to record this week, so it should be up by Friday.
Awesome.
Um, I've got the first 3 episodes out now, and I'm like, I'm not going to go back and redo them. I'll just start from here.
Yeah.
Um, so, The Devil Made Me Do It is already out in both parts. And part one of Amityville, which part one was the DeFeo murders. Um, that is out, and now I'm still figuring out how to do the Lutz story because there's so much information. I'm like, you know what? If I got to do 7 episodes, I got to do 7 episodes.
Mm.
But then I'm like,
For sure.
let's not push that far because I'm not trying to record that many episodes for one case. Even though most of the cases I'm covering could probably take an entire season themselves, but you know, I'm so that I can give the most information possible in the least amount of time. That's been a real struggle figuring that out. But
Yeah.
but based on the fact that I have the next episode written, I now know the formula. I just have to apply that to the rest of the episodes. But
I
so
gotta make it work.
that should be ready. I'm hoping to have that going again this week because it's been like 3 weeks, and I'm like, I got episodes for you guys every week when I first started, and now it's been like 3 weeks of nothingness because I was recording the second episode of Amityville, and I'm like, this isn't enough. Like, I didn't cover everything. Like, I'm not ever going to be able to cover everything, but like, I didn't like. There's certain points that like everybody knows that I just completely for some reason skipped over, and I'm like, no. We can't skip that. That's a very important part of the story.
Yep.
So now I'm like, I had to figure it out, but I think I have. So hopefully it works now. But we'll see what happens.
Yeah. Well, I wish you good luck, and hopefully we'll
Thank
see
you.
you at HillCon.
Absolutely.
Um, we haven't even really talked about it because that weekend is booked, but it's Sunday, Monday, and Tuesday that we're going to be
Right.
gone. So we might just like we said we're like 45 minutes to an hour away from
Yeah.
Hillview. So and we know a lot of the people up there, so we might just run up and spend the day there checking people out.
Yeah. It would absolutely be worth it.
All right. Well, I appreciate you coming on here.
Yeah. Thanks for having me.
If you guys aren't following him, check him out. He already gave you all of his information, so you know where to find him. You'll also be able to find him from our Facebook pages as well. Everybody that joined in and had questions and comments, I appreciate you guys stopping. It means a lot to me. Without you guys, I'm not here doing this. So I appreciate everybody jumping on. I'm going to hit end stream here, and it's going to play my incredible rock and roll song, and everybody enjoy it. And then when it's over, then you can end the podcast, guys. All right, thanks. I'll talk to you soon.
Bye, everyone.
You're not alone. Midnight signal breaking through the noise. Shadows got a voice. You don't got a choice. We're diving past the edge of what you thought.